At Christmas, my parents gave me a book titled How to Grow Up. They gave my sister plane tickets to Europe. So I followed their advice and did what they wanted. The next morning, they called me in a panic, because now I know what they were thinking. Maybe it was a cute book. Maybe a sweet self-help book, with a few motivational anecdotes and a pastel-colored cover. Well, it wasn't a softcover book with the drawing of a 30-something woman clinging to a juice box and a glitter wand while bills fluttered around her. Stop being a child in a charming adult body. It's the kind of book that gets handed out at mandatory HR trainings. The kind that usually comes with a little smile and a "this reminded me of you." Except in this case, my parents weren't smiling. My mother was already telling my sister about the other copy she had bought for a coworker who still uses smiley faces in professional emails. Horrifying. Meanwhile, my sister was busy opening a shiny envelope she had found under the tree. It was thick, cream-colored, and practically radiated prestige. I didn't even have to squint to see the airline logo printed at the top. "Barcelona," she exclaimed dramatically. Seriously, my parents were grinning from ear to ear. "We wanted you to have another chance to expand your global network," said my dad, as if he were launching a diplomatic mission and not funding my sister's vacation for the third time. "Well, a research trip, field study for your career growth," added my mother. Then, as if it were an afterthought, she turned to me and said, "And maybe this book can help you grow yours too." I smiled. I do that when I'm trying not to cry, or scream, or laugh in a way that could be interpreted as a mental breakdown. I wish I could say this was the first time something like this had happened. But if my life had a holiday theme, it would be a very one-way Christmas. Last year, my sister got a MacBook for her studies. And I got a laminated to-do list for organizing the garage, handwritten in Comic Sans. I'm used to being forgotten. I work full-time at a kindergarten. It's loud, sticky, sometimes chaotic, and unlike my family, it never pretends to be something it's not. I spend my days comforting crying kids, resolving hostage negotiations over toys, and pretending not to see when someone eats glitter glue. I also used to work at kids' parties on the weekends, balloon twisting, fairy wings, that sort of thing. "You're the only person I know who has 6 pairs of sparkly wings and not a single winter coat," my sister used to joke. My parents call it my clown job, even though I've never dressed as a clown, because I respect myself and the emotional fragility of children. I don't do as many parties anymore. Not because I've grown up, but because I don't have time. Most of my weekends now go to taking care of my sister's daughter, for free, of course. Because, as my mom says, it takes a village to raise a child. Apparently, I am that village. The entire village. The babysitter, the emotional support, the emergency contact, and the substitute pediatrician when the real one is on vacation. So when they gave me that book with the cartoon woman and her tiny tantrum, I said nothing. I didn't cry. No. I didn't flip the coffee table or make a dramatic scene, like I sometimes fantasized about doing on particularly rough Mondays. I just smiled and then tried the warm chocolate I had made for everyone. And I wondered how I could be 31 years old and still feel like a 10-year-old child in my own family. After the gifts came dinner. It was one of those potluck meals where everyone brings something. What I brought was homemade and made with love. My sister brought store-bought cranberry sauce, which still got more compliments than my rosemary roasted potatoes. At one point, my father even commented, "Wow, Amelia, this cranberry sauce is delicious. Did you make it?" She blinked. "No. I literally opened a can." He laughed like it was the joke of the year. "You've always been so practical." I nearly choked on my potatoes. Later, I offered to help clean up, of course. And my mother handed me a garbage bag, saying, "You've always been good at these things. That's what I admire about you." I was about to ask her what she thought I did at my job. If taking care of 25 preschoolers and preventing them from biting, smearing themselves with glue, or whacking each other with toy dinosaurs wasn't real enough, then what was? But I said nothing. Not because I didn't want to. But because it was Christmas. And because I already knew the answer. They didn't see me as an adult. They saw me as reliable, cheerful, a little silly, the helper, an extra pair of hands. I wasn't ambitious. I wasn't important. I was nice. And in this family, nice people were the ones who ended up cleaning everything. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of my tiny rented room above a nail salon. I could still hear my niece's laughter from earlier, when I made her a reindeer puppet out of paper plates and red pom-poms. Her laughter echoed louder in my chest than anything my parents had said all day. Then I realized, they had given me a book about how to grow up, as if it were a clever little jab. But maybe, just maybe, they were right. Not in the way they thought. Not in the get a real job sense. Not in the stop acting like a child way. But in the sense of start acting like an adult who deserves respect. So I got up. I swept the glitter off the floor. I sat at my desk and began drafting a message. A simple, kind, polite, firm message. No passive aggression, no sarcasm, just clear boundaries. I let my sister know that starting in the new year, I would be stepping back from regularly looking after her daughter. I loved being an aunt, but I couldn't keep sacrificing all my weekends, especially at the cost of my time, energy, and mental health. I also informed her that I would no longer be contributing to her travel fund or her tuition. I had my own future to plan. I wished her the best. I told her I believed in her dreams. Then I sent a second message to my parents, thanking them for the book and letting them know that it had really made me think. I didn't say anything about how it made me feel, there was no need. Because the next morning, their calls started. And I let them go to voicemail. Because I had work. Because I had children who truly saw me. Because I had a life. And because for the first time in a long time, I was finally growing up, my way. I didn't expect a standing ovation. But I also didn't expect 6 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and a group message from my mother that said, "Hi, we're very surprised. This doesn't seem like you. Moment, Sam. Please think about it, for the good of the family. This doesn't seem like you. And you know what else doesn't seem like anyone? Giving your daughter a passive-aggressive self-help book as a Christmas gift and expecting her to keep washing your dishes and raising your other daughter like a full-time babysitter who's allergic to glitter." But of course, now I was the difficult one. I didn't respond that day or the next. I thought they needed to reflect. When I was a child, they were big fans of natural consequences. It felt fair to let them experience one. The irony is that if you ask my parents, or even my sister, they'd probably say I had a perfect childhood. A stable home. No yelling. Good schools. No drama to blame. What they never noticed is that some of the deepest wounds don't leave visible marks. They just disguise themselves as jokes, or parenting styles, and get buried under years of subtle indifference. When I was 7 years old, I told my parents I wanted to be a fairy when I grew up. Not a princess. Not a ballerina. A fairy. I even had a little speech prepared. I believed it with all my heart. My dad laughed so hard his fork fell. "Maybe aim for something with good dental insurance," he said. And my mom said, "She'll change her mind." Kids always change their minds. I never changed mine. My fairy dream transformed into early childhood education. My glittery wings became puppet shows, story times, and messy art projects that lit up children like Christmas trees. But to them, it was all the same, a phase, a cute detour on the way to something more respectable. My sister Amelia always knew she was the successful one. Shiny success. Spreadsheet organized, internationally certified success. She had a LinkedIn profile at 16, competed in the debate team, and practiced arguing against herself in front of the mirror. She won awards for essays on topics she didn't even care about. She was good at performing, just not the kind that involved puppets and colored crayons. When she said she wanted to study international relations, my parents clapped like she discovered the cure to a deadly disease. "She's going to change the world," they told me, dramatically. She got scholarships, internships, exchanges, and when all that ran out, she had me. At first, it was just a little thing. Helping with her student visa expenses. "Just until I get paid next," she would say. Then came the textbooks. After that came the trip to Berlin for a networking symposium that looked more like a yoga retreat with tapas. Then came the babysitting, that turned out to be more permanent. She had her daughter, Elodie, 2 years ago. I was happy. I love that little girl as if she were mine. But loving her doesn't mean I agreed to raise her while her parents went off building career connections in Lisbon. It started gradually. Just an hour while I run errands. Just this Saturday so we can go out. Just one weekend. And suddenly, it became always. I missed my students' birthday parties to look after Elodie. I canceled dates. I stopped doing children's events because my weekends were no longer mine. One time, I mentioned maybe starting up party work again, and my mom said, "Oh, sweetheart, that's not a real business, it's like playing dress up." She said this while I was holding her granddaughter, who was literally wearing a sparkly tutu and calling me Auntie Ada. The irony didn't even register for her. But the worst part is that I allowed it. I let it happen, because I thought being good meant that. Being good meant helping, being needed, being useful, even if it made me invisible. They trained me for that since I was little. When Amelia got an A, they framed her report card. When I won a storytelling contest at school dressed as a dinosaur, they told me not to brag. When Amelia said she wanted to go into diplomacy, they cleared out the guest room and made it into an office. When I said I wanted to work with children, they asked if I had considered a second career as a backup. They didn't see me. They saw my job, and they were embarrassed. They saw my glitter and thought I hadn't grown up. But I've wiped more noses, handled more tantrums, and mediated more toy disputes than many executives manage in their boardrooms. I do it in sneakers and a paint-splattered apron instead of a suit. I didn't become a fairy. I became someone who makes children feel safe. Who notices when they're a little sad. Who turns cardboard into dragons and hugs into trust. But that didn't fit into their definition of success. So when they said, "Grow up," what they really meant was, be more like her. More like Amelia. And I almost believed it. I almost believed that being cheerful made me childish. That loving children made me silly. That being helpful made me lesser. Until this year. Until the book. Until I realized that growing up didn't mean becoming less. It meant becoming more me. Just with boundaries. So I started making space. That week after Christmas, I didn't babysit. I didn't offer to help. I didn't even hint at anything. I just politely declined the little favor my sister needed. And when she reminded me she had a dinner on Friday night, I said, "Hope you have a great time. Maybe next time." She didn't reply. I also stopped sending money, without any drama. I simply stopped. I didn't explain. I didn't say anything. I let them notice. And judging by the messages I got on Thursday, they did notice. "You've always been so generous, but it hurts a bit that you choose now to pull away. Dad. We're worried about your attitude. This cold shift is alarming. Amelia. So now I'm supposed to figure everything out on my own? Amelia again. Funny how the moment you stop being a free service, people treat you like you're unhinged. But here's the thing, I wasn't pulling away. I was standing up, for myself, for my time, and for the happiness that had been slowly draining away just to keep everyone else comfortable. And at some point, I laughed again. Not the forced kind. Not the smile through it kind. Real laughter, the kind that shakes your shoulders. My coworker spilled juice on herself and turned it into a little impromptu lesson on liquid safety. One of my students told me they loved me more than gummy bears, but not more than outer space. That kind of joy doesn't come from obedience. It comes from truth. From choosing the kind of adult you want to be. Even if it's the kind of adult who has 6 pairs of fairy wings and an Excel sheet to track her glitter inventory. The first real sign of panic came through a family group chat. "Mom, quick question, are you free this weekend? Can you watch Elodie? Me, Amelia, and Marcus have a commitment. Won't be long. Me, sorry, I have plans. Amelia, plans or one of your little parties? Me, neither. I'm just not available. Dad, this is disappointing. We trusted you. Amelia, we trusted you. Like I was a dryer cycle or a footrest, No acknowledgement for the 100 weekends I had already given up, just the assumption that I would continue to be conveniently useful. That weekend, I went to the zoo by myself, and it was amazing. I fed the giraffes, ate overpriced cotton candy, and laughed out loud when a kid threw his shoe into the meerkat enclosure yelling, "This is my offering." No one asked me for anything. No one told me I was being immature. No one handed me a baby saying, "Be good and take care of her." I just had a good time. I didn't even post about it. I kept it for myself. Of course, my giraffe-filled happiness lasted barely 36 hours. Because on Monday morning, when I got to work, I saw 3 missed calls from my dad and a voicemail that began with, "We are very hurt." Always a good sign. Apparently, Amelia had tried to hire a paid babysitter for Saturday, her words, not mine, and it didn't work out. Some teenager with a fake resume and a nose piercing bailed at the last minute. Instead of canceling her networking cocktail event, she left Elodie with Marcus's cousin. The poor cousin forgot to change her diaper for 5 hours, taught her to say, "To hell with this," and let her eat whipped cream straight from the can. My parents were horrified. "You know how stressed Amelia is," my mom said. "She doesn't need this betrayal." Betrayal. That's what she called it. As if I had leaked state secrets or abandoned a kitten in the snow. I didn't even respond. I just stared at my phone while peeling a Paw Patrol sticker off my notebook, breathing through my nose. The next time Amelia wrote to me, it wasn't a request. It was a statement. "Amelia, we need to talk. Mom says you've been acting weird lately. Also, I noticed my tuition payment didn't go through. Were you late, or?" I burst out laughing in the staff room, surrounded by paper snowflakes and juice boxes, while 2 of my co-workers leaned in like it was a soap opera. No, I wasn't late. I just stopped sending it. "Amelia, what do you mean you stopped sending it?" I stopped sending money. "Amelia, you can't do that without warning." Hello? I'm in the middle of applying for a program in Geneva. And I'm not your sponsor, Amelia. I'm your sister. She went silent for 1 blessed second. Then she snapped, "It's because of that stupid book, isn't it?" I almost said yes, it would have been easier. But the truth is, the book was just the last drop. A poorly designed little book stacked on top of a mountain of unpaid babysitting, passive-aggressive comments, and emotional invisibility. It's not because of the book, I said. It's because of everything. Amelia, what everything? You. And Mom. And Dad. And how none of you take me seriously unless I'm being useful. How you all treat my job like a joke but treat my free labor as sacred. How I've spent thousands supporting your education and your travels, while you roll your eyes at mine, like I'm some failure who still believes in fairies. Amelia, oh my God, she muttered. You're being dramatic. There it was, Amelia's classic move to shut me down. The same voice she used when we were kids and I cried after she ripped the head off my favorite stuffed unicorn. You're too sensitive. You're emotional. Grow up. You don't have a right to my money, I said quietly. You don't have a right to my time, either. I love Elodie very much, but I'm not your nanny. She hung up, which honestly felt almost like a win, until it escalated. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my work without warning, wearing a coat, heels, and a scarf, with that, I'm not mad, just disappointed, face. In real life, I was cleaning up the remains of an explosive glitter workshop when I saw her standing in the hallway, scanning the walls like she was searching for something illegal among our paper whales and cardboard owls. Mom, can we talk? She said. I blinked. Now? She gave a tight smile. Just a moment. I stepped into the hallway holding a glue stick. Mom, your sister is very upset, she began. She says you're being cold, and I have to say, I agree. I said nothing. She looked around and then added. Mom, I know you enjoy this environment. But maybe it's time to think about something bigger. You're not a teenager anymore. I looked down at the glue stick in my hand. You know what's funny? I said. Every day I tell my kids that their feelings matter. That they deserve respect. That it's okay to say no. She blinked. Me, and I really believe that, even if I've got glitter on my pants while I say it. She looked at me as if I'd just recited Shakespeare in ancient Greek. I'm not being cold, I said. I'm being clear. That's what growing up is, setting boundaries, protecting your peace, choosing how you want to live. And abandoning your family? I didn't respond. I'm just walking away from an unpaid job. She opened her mouth, but I returned to my classroom, because it was snack time, and my kids didn't judge me for not buying plane tickets to Europe. The following weeks were quiet. Tense, but silent. No requests, no invitations, just silence. Until the party. Elodie's birthday. I didn't get an invitation. What I saw was a Facebook post, Elodie in a bouncy castle, holding a cake twice her size, while Amelia and Marcus posed next to her in matching pastel outfits. Some families we're born into, others we find. They didn't tag me. Or anyone from my side of the family. I stared at the post for a long time. I sat on my sofa in silence, eating popcorn without appetite. Then I got up and booked a small venue. I pulled out my costume boxes, decorations, and puppets. I messaged some parents from work, made a couple of calls. And the following weekend, I threw a party. A magical, colorful, chaotic, glitter-filled party. Just for Elodie. Just her and me. No politics. No manipulation. Just love. We made crowns. We had a puppet show. I let her throw glitter confetti with zero restrictions. She hugged me so tight at the end I almost fell over. Best birthday ever, she whispered. I didn't cry. I just smiled and said, that's what aunties are for. No guilt. No conditions. And this time, I was the adult. The trouble started with a voice message. Barely 10 seconds long. Sent from Elodie's iPad, which she usually only used to watch cartoons or accidentally call people in her contacts. In the background, you could hear her tiny voice shouting, "Fairy party. Fairy party. Not boring party. Not boring cake." And faintly, you could hear me laughing. She had been recreating her birthday ever since, running around in the sparkly tutu I gave her, waving her glitter wand, asking for more sparkles and wondering where the singing dragon had gone. I should have seen it coming. Amelia wasn't going to like it. First, she sent me a vague message. Amelia, Elodie is confused. She keeps saying your party was the real one. You're not helping. Then. Amelia, your sister is upset. Elodie keeps asking for you and calling our party boring. This isn't okay. It escalated when, apparently, Elodie used her 2-year-old chaotic logic to tell her daycare teacher. Elodie, mommy's party boring. My good fairy party. She even tried to put one of my glitter stickers in her cubby, saying it was for next time. I thought it was funny. Amelia thought it was betrayal. Shortly after, I received a call from my boss. Someone, no names mentioned, but I had a pretty good guess, had contacted the center, asking if any staff member had taken a child off the premises without authorization. It was a hunt for proof. I sat there in the staff room, surrounded by paper snowflakes and juice boxes, trying to stay composed. I hadn't done anything wrong. I had evidence. I opened the messages. Me, hey, just confirming for this Saturday. Same time as last year to bring Elodie? Amelia, yes, keep it simple. No need to overdo it, okay? Send me the community hall address. All in writing. All clear. But that didn't stop the rumors. It didn't stop my aunt from calling to ask if I was okay, emotionally. It didn't stop my father from leaving a voicemail saying, Dad, you know, we could have gone to the police. We chose not to. Think about that. I stared at the wall for a while after hearing that. Then I got up, made some tea, and opened a new folder on my computer. All the evidence. Just in case they really lost their minds. Inside, I placed every message thread, the receipt for the venue rental, and the confirmation message from Amelia the night before. Amelia, I'll drop her off around 11. Thanks again. Then, I drafted an email. Subject, regarding the party and recent accusations. Body. Hi Amelia. Since I've heard from others that you're suggesting I took Elodie without your permission, I've attached the full record of your written consent. If this continues, or if my workplace receives another false complaint, I will consult with a lawyer. I love Elodie. But I will not tolerate defamation for hosting a party you yourself approved. She didn't respond. But my mother did. Mom, this is family, not a courtroom. You're being cold again. Come talk to us. Cold. Not falsely accused. Not defamed. Just cold. They always turned my pain into a temperature problem. If I stayed calm, I was cold. If I showed emotion, I was too sensitive. There was no space in which I could exist without being criticized. Meanwhile, Elodie kept asking for me. Her teacher sent me a message. Today she tried to call you with a toy phone. Said she wanted to invite you to her party, part 2. Thought you'd like to know. I smiled. Then I cried. But I didn't call. Not even when Amelia posted a photo of Elodie playing in the yard with the caption, "Home is where true family is." Not even when my parents shared a joint message about certain misguided relatives who treat children like trophies. I said nothing. Because I didn't need to fight lies with more noise. I had the truth. And apparently, I had support. A week later, my good uncle, the one who once brought me cake on a Tuesday and told me, "You matter more than they make you feel," called. I saw what your mother posted. Everyone's talking. It's ridiculous. I sighed. I didn't do anything wrong. I know, he said. We all know. Turns out, my grandmother called Amelia to ask what was going on, and Amelia hung up. My cousin messaged me privately. I saw the photos from the party. Elodie looked so happy. You're amazing with her. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message from one of Amelia's friends, someone I'd only met once. Hey, I know it's not my place, but I wanted to say that the way they talk about you isn't right. If you need someone to back up your side, I'm here. It was a small message, but it meant the world. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain. I was just the first one to say no. That weekend, I booked 3 new children's events, parents who had seen photos of the fairy party and wanted something like it. One of them said, "We've done the usual bouncy castle and clown thing. But this? This looks like real joy." Maybe that was the key. Amelia's party had been perfect for Pinterest, matching balloons, an expensive cake, a professional photographer. Mine was a beautiful, shy, loud, messy chaos, and real. The following Monday, I received a letter in the mail. It was Amelia's handwriting. A brief note. I crossed a line. I got scared. I didn't like seeing her so happy without me. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry. I understand if you want to keep your distance. But if you ever want to see her again, I hope you'll let me know. I folded the letter. I didn't forgive her instantly. That takes time. But I did write back. I love Elodie. Seeing her always makes me happy. But I'm not going to continue in a family system that turns love into control. If we want to rebuild anything, it has to start with truth. She didn't reply. But 3 weeks later, she sent me a video of Elodie twirling in the tutu I gave her, glitter floating everywhere. At the end, she stopped, waved at the camera, and said, "I love my Auntie Ada." I didn't cry. I smiled, because I no longer needed to defend myself. They tried to sink my name, and instead, I built something stronger. It's been 3 years. Elodie is now 5, brilliant, imaginative, and fully convinced she's half unicorn. I see her regularly. Her parents aren't thrilled about it, but they allow it because she adores me. And frankly, they need the break. Amelia finally finished her degree. But it wasn't easy. Without my financial help, she had to cut back on travel, turn down some prestigious unpaid programs, and take out a large loan. At first, it was a mess, between university, her daughter, and no free weekends. But she made it. She stumbled, adapted, and in her own way, she grew up too. Now she works. It's not glamorous. It's not international. It's definitely not the kind of thing she used to brag about at family dinners. But it's hers, and she's doing okay. She's just not on a pedestal anymore. My parents and I maintain distant contact, a few obligatory messages. They still don't understand. They think I overreacted. They haven't offered a real apology. Just silence, followed by guilt-laced messages like, "Your sister's doing the best she can. We miss how things used to be. But you know what? I don't miss it. My life is mine now. I run a small creative workshop business for kids. My party calendar is booked out 2 months in advance. I regularly get invited to speak at early childhood education events. I even hired a part-time assistant. Her name is Bree, and she's better than me at balloon animals. I still use glitter. I still do silly voices. I still end up with paint in my hair. But now, no one calls it childish. They call it fully booked and thriving. And sometimes I wonder, did I take it too far? Then I remember how peaceful I feel today. What do you think? Was I wrong to set boundaries when I did know?